My name is Garikai Chaunza. I'm a freelance journalist and I'm also the chairperson of Media Institute of Southern Africa, Zimbabwe, in charge of Harare. The relationship between the activists and journalists is a symbiotic relationship where the former should give news to journalists, then journalists have the power to publish worldwide what is happening in Zimbabwe. We have got two types of journalism in Zimbabwe, the categories per se, the freelance journalist and a journalist who works for the established media organization. Those who work for the established media organizations, there are a lot of challenges which they do face because they are protected by their institutions. But for a freelance journalist, it is very difficult for you to practice here in Zimbabwe because of the presence of the laws such as the Access to Information and Protection of Privacy Act, which requires you to be accredited or registered by the Zimbabwe Media Commission for you to practice journalism. And this makes it difficult for many journalists who are coming out of colleges and universities who do not work for any established media organization. The difference which I see and which all journalists would agree with me, which is there between the old administration and this new administration, is that the new administration is saying that it wants to repeal or it wants to reform these media laws. The old administration never talked about that, but the similarities are that the same laws which were enacted by the old administration still remain. Reforming them is one other thing, but how they want to reform these laws, they haven't come out clear on how they want to reform these draconian media laws. What we are seeing is just a change of names or a change of a name of a legislation given another name. So that's the environment at the moment. I can safely say that the environment is not conducive for journalism. Yes, recently we celebrated our World Press Freedom Day here in Harare, where we were just taking stock of the achievements which have been made by the government in as far as reforming the media environment is concerned. The challenges which I have highlighted earlier, which we still have, media reforms are yet to be implemented. We see journalists being harassed. We see journalism being criminalized by the state. We also see the shrinking of the media space. We have many media but one voice. There's no media diversity. What we see at the moment is media pluralism. So these are the issues which we were highlighting as journalists. We noted with concern that there is no political will in implementing or reforming the media environment, and we also resolved that we need to engage the government. We need to go to them and knock on their doors and ask them what is it that they mean by saying they want to reform the media, because as I have earlier alluded to, what we have seen and what we are seeing is only the change of names of media laws as opposed to real reforms being implemented. The life of an established journalist is that early in the morning he gets to work, he attends a media diary where the editor the journalists and the editors discuss the stories, and they are deployed, they are given resources, cars, cameras to go out and do the news gathering. The freelance journalist does not have or he has to struggle to look for newspapers or news outlets where to publish or to sell his or her stories. Even if you have where to sell a story or where to publish your story, the challenge remains that you use your own resources and you don't even know whether your story which you have produced is going to be used by that media organization. The new media ecologies, WhatsApp, social media, Facebook, Twitter, changed greatly the practice of journalism or the work of journalists, in the sense that you no longer need to go to the source exactly to get the voices. If you are a radio journalist, you would just use your phone, ask the source or the interviewee to just record himself or herself and send you the voice notes via WhatsApp. When doing the trainings here, we emphasize that, or we recommend that more training on digital media should be given to journalists. Journalists need to be trained regularly so that they move with times. You know, we are now in the digital world where everything has gone digital and technology is moving. Also, the security to information. You know, security information is very crucial in journalism. Journalists need to be taught, need to be educated on how to secure their information. Also about media laws, what's happening in the world and what's happening to other journalists locally and internationally, and also in the continent. Citizen journalism means that you need not to be accredited, you need not to get the government licenses for you to publish or to gather and publish news. You use your cell phone to just send pictures, to just capture events. It has been made possible by the coming in of these new media technologies, WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, which everyone now has moved from being a consumer of news to also a producer. So what we now have because of this are now prosumers. Prosumers in the sense that you can produce, you can film as a citizen journalist, you can also edit, you can also read from what other people are saying. The difference now between that is between a citizen journalism and established or traditional journalism is that a traditional journalist now has the capacity to verify sources, new sources, but citizen journalism has assisted journalists in getting news or giving tips on what's happening, and then the established journalist now makes some follow-ups on what he or she would have seen being posted by citizen journalists or citizens using the new media platforms. Civil society in Zimbabwe is very crucial in the sense that they are there to speak for the voiceless. They are there to represent those people who are afraid of them, who are afraid of challenging or confronting the government to implement these reforms, which I was talking about, or which we are talking about in terms of media reforms, in terms of electoral reforms, whatever reforms, and the respect to human rights. All this pressure must come from the civil society pushing government to shape and change a new societal order. Even in politics, the civil society should push for political change. They should force government to correct ills if they are happening. And activists, on the other side, their relationship with journalists is that of the source and the publisher, because the journalists, by the way, they are the conveyors of the information from the and they are also human rights activists. So the relationship between the activists and the journalists is a symbiotic relationship where the former should give news to journalists, then journalists have the power to publish worldwide what is happening in Zimbabwe. Civil society was very active here in Zimbabwe, and it was very instrumental in giving news, I mean human interest news to journalists prior to the coming in of the inclusive government, which was formed between the Movement for Democratic Change and the ZANU-PF in 2008. It was very active politically. They could go and record political violence, human rights abuses by state actors, and also most of these civil society organizations were being headed or being led by political activists who played a source role to the journalists. We used to see a very vibrant opposition, which used to mobilize people on social media, mobilize people in villages and communities, challenging the status quo. But this is no longer the same. We're not seeing the civil society speaking out loud as they used to do prior to the tenure of the inclusive government, that is prior to 2008. A self-confident and serious civil society organization or civil society movement has the duty to create room for maneuver to change power structures and also to shape new social order. That defines what civil society is, and that is what civil society should, a strong civil society, a genuine civil society, an empowered civil society should react and should act on. In terms of lobbying and advocating, everyone in Zimbabwe would agree with me that things are not moving well. We have got price hikes, fuel shortages, queues of fuel queues have now also re-emerged. Media laws have not been implemented, also electoral laws in terms of those who deal with the politics. Those are issues which people of Zimbabwe, or through the assistance of civil society organizations, should take up. They should bring those to table. They should engage parliament. They should engage the ruling government. There are a lot of unused opportunities. I'm saying that transport costs are now unbearable. I'm saying the cost of living is going high every day, and there is no one who is petitioning government. There is no one who is questioning the authorities. There is no one in terms of in the form of those people who purport to be human rights activists, to just go to parliament and say, minister or parliament, can you talk or can you put these issues on the agenda of parliament? There's need for pressure from media organizations, media actors, and social movements, and also human rights activists, to push government to implement the new constitution enacted about 8-10 years ago. The Zimbabwe Media Institute of Southern Africa, MISA, has achieved a lot in terms of lobbying for government to repeal media repressive laws. It has done a lot in petitioning parliament to reform the media laws. And as I've said, prior to this new administration, there was no zeal by government to reform media laws. But when the new administration came into place, MISA also pressured the new administration to see sense in reforming the media. Hence, we now hear the new administration saying that they want to reform the media, although they are now changing the names of the same media laws, repressive laws. But to me, I can see that there is a little bit movement in terms of trying to reform the media, thanks to MISA for its continued pressure to the government. Magamba Network has also improved and has also achieved a lot in terms of educating or engaging journalists in using new media ecologies. Gamba is the home of digital media. It is the home of social media. It's the home of citizen journalism. They do trainings for citizen journalists and also for established journalists in making sure that they move in time, or they move in tandem with technology. So Magamba and MISA, they've played a very big role in lobbying for media laws, the reforms in the media laws, and also conscientizing and also educating journalists, training them on social media, and also the security to information. Prior to the inclusive government, we used to see the organization like the Crisis in Zimbabwe Coalition. Whenever there was an AU meeting in Ethiopia, we would see them there, coming here from Zimbabwe, and also ambushing the heads of state of the African Union, and complaining of petitioning them, lobbying that they should also put the Zimbabwe on their agenda. We also used to see them whenever there was a SADC meeting. We used to see these civil society organizations, especially the umbrella board of the civil society organization, the Crisis in Zimbabwe Coalition. We used to see its presence during these regional meetings, forcing heads of state to put Zimbabwe on the agenda. Now Zimbabwe is facing is undergoing a serious crisis in terms of economy, in terms of the implementation of the laws. These are the issues which the civil society organizations, if they were linked, should also lobby their counterparts regionally, internationally, or continentally, to also assist them or also invite them to invite President Emmerson Mnangagwa and his administration to put his house in order. The challenges still remain. Challenges are that government and state actors do not trust these organizations. They see these organizations as enemies of the state. The future of the country is unpredictable. At the moment, Zimbabwe is undergoing economic crisis. Prices of basic commodities are going up every day. There is no currency in Zimbabwe. It's now almost 10 or 15 years we don't have a currency, our own currency in Zimbabwe, and the economy is just going haywire. There's high levels of unemployment, youths are unemployed, the issues of media reforms, the issues of all reforms. So the future of Zimbabwe is very unpredictable, it's very cantankerous. We see people every day. If you go to Western countries' embassies here in Zimbabwe, you see a lot of people there applying visas to leave the country. We are foreseeing civil unrest in Zimbabwe if things go unattended, but there is hope in Zimbabwe. The hope is that we are a loving people, we are a loving nation. Zimbabweans are hardworking people. They are very patient. They are not even violent, like we see in other countries. Also, the opportunities which are there is that the government which we now have, this new administration, seem to be a little bit patient, a little bit accommodative to public engagements, and I think if that opportunity is used by Zimbabweans and by all other civil society organizations, human rights activists, opposition political parties, to engage government and find a lasting solution, if there is a consensus or dialogue between government and civil society, things will be much better. I also propose that there is need for social contract or dialogue per se, national dialogue, which will include every stakeholder, the business, the church, students, political parties, social movement activists, and also journalists. If they come under one roof and discuss the Zimbabwean problem, I think a solution can easily be reached at.